June heat clung to Harlem like a wet shirt. The phone rang anyway. Not at a mansion, not in a penthouse. In a narrow apartment above Lenox Avenue where the windows stayed cracked for air and the curtains never fully closed. On the other end of that line was Muhammad Ali, the most famous fighter on earth, calling one man before every fight. Not his trainer, not his wife, not a promoter. He called Bumpy Johnson, and this night, the call wasn't about nerves. It was about a threat. Ali's voice came fast, controlled, but tight. "They're watching my door." Silence answered him, a long drag on a cigarette, ash tapping glass. Bumpy didn't ask who they were, he already knew. Because at that exact moment, 3 floors below Ali's rented place, 2 men stood in the shadows, hats low, shoes quiet. One of them kept touching his coat pocket like he needed reassurance. Cold metal. Ali whispered, "I fight tomorrow." Bumpy finally spoke, quiet, certain. "Sit tight, don't open for nobody." The line clicked dead. Outside, a car idled, engine barely breathing, headlights off. Here's the part nobody talks about. For years before the bell ever rang, before gloves ever touched leather, Muhammad Ali made the same call at the same hour, 3 a.m, because someone was always waiting in the dark, and Bumpy Johnson, Harlem's most feared protector, always answered. Cut to the street. Rain hadn't started yet, but the air smelled like it was coming. Cigarette smoke hung low. A woman laughed somewhere down the block, then went quiet. One of the men below Ali's apartment checked his watch. "Now," he muttered. They moved. Up the stoop. Step by step, shoes scraping concrete, breathing steady. Inside, Ali stood barefoot on the rug, hands wrapped, not for punching, but ready. His heartbeat thudded in his ears. The gun on the table wasn't his. It had been slipped there earlier. No fingerprints, no note. A message. Ali stared at it, didn't touch it. He thought of the call, of Bumpy's voice, of that promise without words. Outside, Knuckles tapped the door, soft, polite. Delivery. Ali didn't move. The knock came again, harder. "Open up." And then, footsteps on the stairs, heavy, confident, too many to count. The men at the door froze. One whispered, "That ain't ours." The hallway filled with shadows, big ones, shoulders blocking light, breath fogging the air. A voice rolled down the stairs like thunder wrapped in velvet. "Evening, gentlemen." Bumpy Johnson stepped into view. Coat open, hands empty. His eyes weren't angry. They were tired. The men backed away. One stumbled. Another reached for his pocket and thought better of it. Bumpy tilted his head toward the door. Wrong apartment. A pause. And wrong night. Down on the street, the car shut off. Someone cursed. Tires squealed. Inside, Ali leaned against the wall as the danger drained out of the room. His throat went dry. Sweat ran down his spine. The phone rang again. He answered. Bumpy said one thing. "Sleep now. Fight tomorrow." Click. But what Muhammad Ali didn't know, what nobody knew yet, was why Bumpy always picked up at 3 a.m., and what those phone records would later prove would change how this story ends. The man who wanted Muhammad Ali scared didn't hate boxing, he hated protection. His name was Vincent "Vinny" Caruso, mid-30s. Italian suit, limp in his right leg from a knife fight he never talked about. He worked collections for East Coast money. Quiet muscle, clean paperwork, ugly follow-ups. And Harlem was never supposed to be off limits. Vinny sat in the back room of a club on 125th Street, sweating through his collar while a fan rattled overhead. Dice clacked somewhere out front. A trumpet cried, then died. He stared at a folded newspaper. Allie's face filled the page, grinning, loud, untouchable. Vinny tapped the photo with one finger. "He's got no business calling that old bastard," he said. Across from him, a bartender named Willie wiped the same glass again and again, hands shaken, eyes down. "You don't say his name in here," Willie muttered. Vinny smiled thin. "I just did." This was supposed to be simple. Allie came to Harlem before big fights. Always did. Cheaper rent, familiar streets, crowds that loved him, that also meant access, promoters, bookies, men who wanted to remind a loud boxer who really controlled things. Vinny's boss had made it clear, no broken bones, no headlines, just fear. Enough to make Allie think twice before running his mouth. But there was a problem. Every time Vinny's guys got close, doors stayed closed. Threats went unanswered. Knocks were met with silence, like someone always knew. Vinny leaned back, annoyed. "He's just a fighter," he said. "He bleeds like anyone." Willie finally looked up. His voice was low. "He don't stand alone." Vinny's smile faded. "You saying Johnson?" Willie swallowed. "I'm saying folks who bother Allie don't stay long." That limp leg twitched under the table. Vinny hated that, a reminder of past mistakes. He folded the paper slowly. "I ain't scared of a man pushing 60. But that was a lie, and he knew it. Because protection like this didn't come free. Someone was paying. And that meant Ali wasn't just a loud mouth with fast hands. He was a symbol, a shield. And if Vinny let that stand, Harlem would start deciding who was safe without permission. That couldn't happen. 2 nights later, Vinny stood across the street from Allie's building. Rain finally fell. Light at first, then harder. He watched the windows. 5 minutes, he told his men, then we knock. The younger one, Tommy, kept flexing his fingers, nervous, green. "Boss," Tommy said, "what if—" Vinny cut him off. "We ain't hurting him." Tommy nodded. Didn't look convinced. They crossed the street. That's when Vinny saw the lights flicker inside the apartment. Not panic. Movement. Like someone waiting. A chill ran up his spine. "Hold," Vinny whispered. Too late. The call had already been made. Vinny didn't know about the phone records yet, didn't know about the pattern, didn't know that Allie never slept before a fight without making that call. All Vinny knew was this. Every time he pushed forward, something invisible pushed back harder. And tonight, he was tired of backing up. He stepped onto the stoop, raised his hand, knocked. And behind him, somewhere in the dark stairwell, a floorboard creaked. Heavy, slow, deliberate. Vinny turned. His breath caught. Because the man coming down those stairs wasn't there to scare a boxer. He was there to decide who walked away and who didn't. The stairwell smelled like wet wool and old smoke. Each step creaked under the weight coming down. Vinny felt it before he saw it. Pressure in the chest, breath shortening. The kind you got when you realized you misjudged distance. The man stepped into the weak bulb light. Broad shoulders, dark overcoat, hat low, hands relaxed at his sides. Bumpy didn't rush. That was worse. Vinny forced a smile. "Evening." Bumpy stopped 3 steps up, looked at the door, then at the men behind Vinny. Tommy's hand hovered near his coat. Shaking, Bumpy's voice came soft. "Who you here for?" Vinny cleared his throat. "Just business." "Business at 3 a.m, Bumpy said. "That's always trouble." Allie's door stayed closed, silent like it was holding its breath. Rain ticked against the hallway window. Vinny spread his hands. "Nobody's hurt. Ain't gonna be." Bumpy tilted his head, studied Vinny's limp. "Funny," he said. "That ain't how it usually goes." The younger man behind Vinny shifted his feet. Bumpy noticed. He always noticed. "You nervous, son?" Bumpy asked. Tommy swallowed. "No, sir." "That's a shame," Bumpy said. "Nervous keeps you alive." Vinny felt control slipping. He stepped forward. "We just want to talk to the fighter." Bumpy's eyes hardened. "You don't talk to him," he said. "You talk to me." Silence pressed in, thick, heavy. Vinny laughed, too loud. "With respect, old man." The gun on the table inside the apartment scraped softly. Allie moved. The sound carried through the door. Every man heard it. Bumpy didn't turn. "Don't," he said calmly. The scraping stopped. Vinny licked his lips. Sweat mixed with rain on his face. "This don't concern you?" he said. Bumpy stepped down one stair. Now they were eye level. "It concerns me," Bumpy said, "because you're standing where you shouldn't." Vinny gestured back toward the street. "We can all walk." "That was your chance," Bumpy replied. Another step. Tommy's breathing got louder, fast, ragged. Bumpy glanced at him again. "Your mother know where you at?" Tommy blinked. "What?" "She'd be disappointed," Bumpy said. "You should go home." Tommy looked to Vinny. Vinny hesitated. That was the mistake. Bumpy's hand moved, not fast, certain. He grabbed Tommy's wrist before the gun cleared the coat. Metal clattered to the floor. The sound echoed like a bell. Bumpy twisted. Tommy screamed. High, sharp. The gun skidded toward the wall. Vinny froze. Bumpy leaned close to Tommy's ear. "Run," he whispered. Tommy ran. Footsteps pounded down the stairs. Door burst open. Rain swallowed him whole. Vinny stood alone now, just him and Bumpy, and the door behind them. Vinny's voice cracked. "You made your point." Bumpy shook his head. "No," he said. "You made yours." He nudged the fallen gun with his shoe. "Who sent you?" Vinny hesitated. Bumpy waited. That was worse than a threat. "Downtown," Vinny muttered. "They wanted noise gone." Bumpy smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Noise keeps people awake," he said. "That's the point." Bumpy reached into his coat. Vinny flinched, but Bumpy pulled out something else, a folded slip of paper. He held it up. Vinny squinted. Phone numbers, dates, times. 3:07 a.m., 3:05 a.m., 3:11 a.m. Every call logged, every fight night. Bumpy tapped the paper once. "You see this?" Vinny nodded slowly. "You know what this is?" Bumpy asked. Vinny swallowed. "No." Bumpy leaned closer. "It's proof," he said. Proof of something Vinny wasn't ready to understand yet. And then sirens wailed in the distance, close, too close. Bumpy stepped back. "Leave," he said. Vinny didn't argue. He backed away, slow, careful. As he reached the stairs, Bumpy spoke again. "One more thing." Vinny turned. Bumpy's voice dropped. "If you come back," he said, "you won't hear me coming." Vinny nodded. Then he ran. Inside the apartment, Allie finally exhaled. But the danger wasn't over. Because what Vinny didn't know, what he wouldn't learn until it was far too late, was that those phone records weren't protection. They were bait. And someone else had already taken the hook. 2 weeks later. Different night. Same hour. 3:09 a.m. The phone rang again. But this time it didn't ring in Harlem. It rang in a federal office downtown, and where the lights never went off, and the coffee never tasted right. A man in a gray suit lifted the receiver. Didn't say hello. "Yeah." On the other end, a clerk from the phone company spoke fast, nervous. "We got another request," he said. "Same numbers, same pattern." The man in gray smiled for the first time that night. "Good," he said. "Keep 'em coming." He hung up and turned to the corkboard behind him. Photos, strings, notes, alley, Bumpy, addresses, call times. Someone had been watching those calls for months. Not Vinny, not the street, the government. Back in Harlem, Bumpy sat alone at his kitchen table. No coat, no hat, just a glass of water and the phone. He hadn't slept. Across from him lay the same folded paper. The call log. Every time Allie reached for that receiver before a fight. Bumpy knew what it looked like. Protection money, coordination, conspiracy, that was the idea, because the calls weren't about fear. They were about timing. Allie called when the streets were quiet, when enemies moved, when eyes watched doors. Each call confirmed something. Someone was hunting. And every time the phone rang, Bumpy learned who was bold enough to try. That's how he stayed ahead. That's how he kept Allie untouched. But what Bumpy didn't expect was someone else learning too. The knock came at 6:42 a.m. Sharp, official. Bumpy didn't flinch. He stood, smoothed his shirt, walked to the door. When it opened, 3 men stood there, dark suits, bad smiles. One held a folder. "Mr. Johnson," he said, "we need to talk." They stepped inside without waiting. The folder opened on the table. Photos slid out. Bumpy and Ali, different days, same phone booth. Same building. Highlighted call logs, times circled in red. 3 a.m. Again, again, again. The man in the gray suit leaned forward. "You want to explain why the heavyweight champion calls you before every fight?" Bumpy stared at the photos, then he laughed. A short sound. No humor. "You boys ever been scared before?" he asked. The agent stiffened. "This is serious." "So am I," Bumpy said. He leaned in. "That boy calls because he knows trouble walks at night." The agent tapped the folder. "And yet," he said, "trouble never reaches him." Silence. The agent smiled thin, which means, he continued, either you're very lucky, he paused, or very organized. That was the moment, the oh shit moment, because Bumpy finally saw it. The calls had stopped being invisible. The shield had turned into a spotlight. And Ali had no idea. That same morning, Ali trained at a quiet gym. No crowd, just sweat and rhythm. Rope slapped the floor, breath hissed through teeth. He felt good, untouchable. Then the gym door opened. A man he didn't know stepped inside. Hat, smile too polite. "Mr. Ali," the man said, "mind if we talk?" Ali wiped his face. "Who you with?" The man flashed a badge. Ali's smile faded. "We've been reviewing some phone records," the man said. Ali's stomach dropped. "Routine," the agent added. "Nothing to worry about." Ali thought of the calls, the hour, the voice on the other end saying, "Sleep now." The man leaned closer. "You and Mr. Johnson talk an awful lot." Ali said nothing, because for the first time, the call felt heavy, not like protection, like evidence. By nightfall, Harlem buzzed with a different kind of tension. Whispers, closed doors, eyes watching from windows. Bumpy walked the block alone, no bodyguards, no coat, just the weight of a decision pressing into his spine. He stopped under a streetlight, looked up at Ali's building, and for the first time, he didn't reach for the phone, because the truth had finally caught up. The calls weren't saving Ali anymore. They were putting him in the crosshairs. And if Bumpy made the next one, someone else would answer. The fight night came anyway. Madison Square Garden glowed like a furnace. Lights burned white. Crowds roared before a single punch was thrown. Muhammad Ali stood in the tunnel, gloves laced, robe hanging loose. Sweat already traced lines down his ribs. But something was wrong. The phone hadn't rung. No 3 a.m. call, no calm voice, no sleep now, just silence. Ali rolled his shoulders, tried to shake it. "Where's Bumpy?" he muttered. No one answered. Across town in a small federal office, a red light blinked on a recorder. A man pressed, "Play." Static, then breathing, then a familiar voice, low, controlled. "This call ain't for protection," Bumpy said. "It's for exposure." Agents leaned closer. "You wanted proof," Bumpy continued. "Now you got it." The tape clicked off. A name was written down. Vincent Caruso. Vinny was halfway through packing when the door exploded inward. Wood splintered. Guns up. Shouts filled the room. "Federal agents, hands where we can see 'em." Vinny froze. His limp buckled. He dropped to his knees. "No, wait, I didn't." Cold cuffs bit into his wrists. As they dragged him up, one agent leaned close. "You should have stayed away from the fighter." Vinny's face went pale. "Johnson," he whispered. "Ake, that son of a—" Back at the garden, the bell rang. Ali stepped forward, the crowd vanished. Just fists, breath, canvas. He fought angry, fast. Every punch sounded like a door slamming shut. In the second round, he dropped his opponent hard. The man didn't get up. The referee waved it off. The arena exploded. Ali raised his arms, but his eyes searched the dark corners. Still no call. At dawn, Ali returned to Harlem. Quiet streets, paper blowing down gutters, milk bottles clinking on stoops. He climbed the stairs to Bumpy's apartment. The door was open. Inside, the phone sat on the table, receiver off the hook. No blood, no struggle. Just a folded note beside it. Ali picked it up. Hands shaking, 3 words, no more calls. Ali sank into the chair. He understood now. Bumpy hadn't been protecting him anymore. He'd been drawing fire. Turning threats into evidence. Sacrificing himself piece by piece so Ali could fight clean. Free. That afternoon, Bumpy Johnson walked into custody on his own. No cuffs, no chase. He wore a plain coat, hat in hand. Reporters shouted questions. Bumpy didn't stop. One asked, "Was it worth it?" Bumpy paused, looked straight ahead. "Ask the kid," he said. That night, Ali sat alone. The city hummed outside. He lifted the phone, stopped, set it down. The silence felt heavier than any punch he'd ever taken, because the man who answered at 3 a.m. was gone, and the cost of staying safe was finally clear. Harlem didn't erupt. It went quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that made footsteps echo and doors close early. By morning, everyone knew Bumpy Johnson had walked into custody on his own feet. No bruises, no chains. Just that same calm look, like he'd already counted the cost. Storefront radios whispered the news, then shut off. Men who used to stand on corners drifted home before dark. Protection was gone, and nobody rushed to replace it. Ali stayed inside. No entourage, no jokes, no rhymes. He sat by the window watching the street below. Kids jumped rope. A woman shook out a rug. Life kept moving, but something invisible had lifted, or vanished. The phone never rang. Ali reached for it once, stopped himself. The receiver felt heavier now, like it carried weight it couldn't hold. Downtown, Vincent Caruso sang. Not loudly, not proudly, but thoroughly. Names, routes, drop spots. Every sentence bought him another night, breathing free air. Agents wrote everything down. And at the center of it all, the calls. Always the calls. They showed patterns. Timelines, pressure points. But they never proved Ali ordered anything, just that he listened. And listening wasn't a crime. Bumpy's cell smelled like bleach and old metal. He sat on the bunk, hands folded, eyes closed. A guard passed. "You got visitors," the guard said. Bumpy stood. Ali waited on the other side of the glass. No cameras, no smiles, just two men. Ali lifted the phone. "So that's it?" he asked. Bumpy nodded. "That's it." Ali swallowed. "You didn't have to." Bumpy leaned closer to the glass. "Yes," he said, "I did." They stared at each other. Ali's voice broke. "They coming back?" Bumpy shook his head. "Not for you," he said. "You fight clean now." Ali closed his eyes. "Thank you." Bumpy smiled faint. "Don't call no more." The line went dead. Outside, Harlem adjusted. New men tested limits. Some learned fast. Others didn't. But one thing stayed the same. Nobody knocked on Ali's door again. The street remembered who had paid the price and who had been spared. Stop. Wait for next. Part 7. The Lasting Impact Plus CTA. Years later, a boxing writer found the phone records in a forgotten file. Time-stamped. Yellowed. Official. Always the same hour. Always before a fight. Always one direction. Muhammad Ali to Bumpy Johnson. Never the other way around. Ali never talked about it on camera, not in interviews, not in documentaries. But people close to him noticed something change. Before fights, he used to talk all night. After Harlem, he went quiet, sat alone, listened. Bumpy Johnson died behind bars. No parade, no speeches. Just a man who understood the cost of standing between danger and someone louder, younger, and worth saving. The streets moved on. They always do. But the phone never rang again at 3 a.m. And that silence, that was the price. If this story caught you off guard, wait until you hear about Bumpy's most dangerous enemy, the one who didn't knock. Drop a comment. Would you have made that call? Subscribe.